It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
This is the Cosmic Voice. Cosmic Voice. Music, talk, and nothing but business with your hosts, Chris Natalini and Mick Michaels. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cosmic Voice. This is Season 6, Episode 1. I am here with my co-host, Chris Natalini.
Season 6. Loving it. We are back, baby.
And I am Mick Michaels. Welcome back, everyone, to another show, to a new season. Chris, welcome back to fall.
Yeah, buddy. Yes.
Summer is gone.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, well, yeah, I guess by the time it airs,
yeah. Summer is gone. I mean, actually, I've already broken out my sweat jacket because the mornings have been cold.
Yeah, man. Can't wait. I haven't broken out. Well, my hoodies are ready to go. I just haven't worn one yet. Yeah, man, we are ready. We are ready for fall. I have had my pumpkin spice, though. I'm that guy. I've had a few of those already. So, yeah, I'm pretty excited. Summer is over.
Summer's over, but Season 6 is here. Can you believe this? Season 6. I mean, we've been planning Season 6 now for a couple months. We've been putting together show topics and all that stuff. Yeah. Wasn't sure when we were actually going to start because there's been a lot going on. A lot. So much so that I don't even remember the summer. It just came and went.
Bro, the flew by this time, man. Flew by. It was so fast.
So
we did some traveling together. It did, man. It was fast, bro. It just flew by.
Flew by.
Yeah,
that little excursion that our bands did back in July seems like a long time ago. Yeah, I mean,
it does.
And boy, was that crazy. Was that crazy in itself? I mean, listen, it's Murphy's Law. You know how it is in this biz.
I do.
If it's going to happen, it will happen to a metal band.
Yeah, of course.
And it usually happens. You know how they say things happen in threes? Nah, they happen all the time. It's every show. You know what I mean? Every show there's something.
We are constantly living Spinal Tap. That is not a lot.
Listen, I said that years ago, man. We are all Spinal Tap. We are all Spinal.
We're
all Anvil. Really, we're all Anvil. We're all Anvil.
So true. But we got a really exciting season. I'm really excited about this season.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool topics. I mean, there's a lot going on in the industry right now. Just in the last 4 or 5 months, some things have, just gotten crazy, man.
It has.
Gotten
it
crazy.
Really, really, truly has. It really has. The industry is definitely, I don't know, man. It's just getting nuts.
Like, it's prospering and declining all at the same time, which seems to not even make sense. But, I mean, you have the introduction of AI now, and we're going to be talking about that this season. It's probably going to be brought up a lot. You got bands using backing tracks nonstop, nobody playing anything. You got bands canceling tours. You have the touring for independent artists are disappearing. I mean, all these are going to be things that we're going to be talking about this season, and they're ongoing because they're starting to mount, right? Really what's happening, I think, is with all the changes that occurred with the pandemic, the shutdown, what really happened within the music industry, how artists were things just shut down completely. And their only source was streaming, which, it's no secret that nobody really makes any money in streaming except for a very small percentage of Taylor Swift's and Metallica's and things of that nature. But the rest of us, the rest of them, the people in the B, C, D, E, F, and below tiers, they're not making money, sustainable money.
No, man, no. And it seems like the canceling of tours and shows is an epidemic. I have never seen so many shows and tours being canceled in my life. I mean, you and I have been doing this for a long time, and we are older gents, and I can't remember the last time I've seen so many cancellations.
Yeah, I had tickets for several shows this summer that just never took off.
Yeah, and we talked about it last season, like buying insurance on tickets is like a thing to do now, and I never used to, but now I'm like, no, I'm going to do it because you never know at this point. It's just And we talked about it last season. Like, it is getting insane with shows. You don't even know if you're going to see this show. I mean, you don't. You buy these tickets and you go, well, I hope I hope I see it.
So I was supposed to see Bruce Springsteen.
Oh,
and,
yeah. That's right.
He apparently got sick and then canceled the 2 Philly dates. And then he canceled some other shows. And so I don't know, but they rescheduled them, okay? I was supposed to see Wasp. All those dates were just canned because of his back issue. Honestly, I can't see Bruce Springsteen having soft ticket sales because tickets went on sale long time ago. So maybe that's legit. But being sick seems to be just like at one time having COVID was a good popular excuse. And now, who knows? I don't know, but soft ticket sales, we're reading about it. Bands are coming out and saying, hey, listen, ticket sales aren't anywhere near, it's not even worth going out because for what we sold, pre-sold in ticket sales, we can't take a chance of like, are people just going to show up?
Yeah, man.
Gas is just still skyrocketing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you were talking about Springsteen and Blackie and his back and all that. Even back in the day, man, and like I get it. Look, I'm not, people. It is what it is, especially with COVID. But again, like canceling, I don't ever remember seeing a show where somebody canceled because they were sick. And I don't mean that to sound like a hey, suck it up kind of thing. Like I get it, but I don't remember days. I've seen many, many major headliners where the guys are sick. They just muscle through it. I remember seeing Sammy Hagar one time. He was down and out, and he rocked. His voice wasn't what it is, but that's okay because he said, "Hey, listen, I'm sick. I'm not feeling well. But we're gonna continue on." And it's crazy to me. It's crazy. And now, obviously, I guess it could be different because it's COVID, and that really rocks some people. God forbid when they get it. It's just crazy, man. You see Dave Grohl broke his leg. I mean, he broke his leg, but he played that whole couple shows in a chair, and I've seen Lane Stanley, from House of Chains and he was hurt. He was in a chair and, it's just insane. It's insane. It's crazy. And then low ticket sales. You got that too. When did they reschedule the Bruce Springsteen shows for me?
A year from the dates that in August that he had. Yeah. So it's like a whole other year. Yeah,
I guess because it's outside.
And honestly, man, anything could happen in a year.
Anything could happen in a year, man. I mean, God forbid, knock on wood. But
but
anything could happen in a year.
Yeah,
that's a shame. I know. And he canceled that day, right? Like, I mean, that wasn't like
it was that day.
A couple days before. He canceled that day.
Yeah, that day. Someone's sitting on that ticket money somewhere, gaining a lot of interest.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. It's a whole racket. It's terrible.
Yeah. It is.
It is becoming a tough battlefield for that indie in the trench artist. I mean, the gap is getting bigger and bigger. And unfortunately, what's happening is some of those higher tier artists, acts, bands, whatever you want to call them, they're starting to fall into... They're falling into that gap and coming into our area, right? Because the divide is getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
And... those gatekeepers that everybody thought that we kind of knocked out of place and pushed open the floodgates, now they're still there.
Yep,
They actually may be stronger than ever in some regards. That's how crazy things are getting. Maybe we can shed some light. Maybe we can figure some things out why we talk about it over this season. We can try some stuff ourselves, but we'll see how it goes.
It's Russ the Boss.
This is Stephen Pearson from Rat, the Rat Bastard. You're listening to the Cosmick Voice.
So, kick off season 6 is Surviving Rock and Roll. Surviving Rock and Roll. That's our personal take on it, what we've been dealing with ourselves. I mean, because I know you've been dealing with a lot of stuff over the last 3-4 months. I've been dealing with some stuff the last 4 or 5 months. It's a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff that really sometimes hinders everything else that we do, right? Because to keep that forward momentum, to keep that frontal attack, so to speak, we got to deal with all this other stuff. Of course, there's this other stuff, but sometimes there's more than what people really realize or understand that's happening. They think you just go and you play, but there's all this other stuff. And some of it, you got to dig deep, right? I mean, sometimes, and how do we dig deep? I mean, some days they're not. Listen, I mean, I'm going to be honest. Over the last couple months, there's been times where I'm like, I don't know, man. I may be done. I think I'm done. Yeah. Like, it just mentally, I'm fried. I'm burned out. I'm, whatever. But let's talk about it, man. Let's talk about surviving rock and roll. Or for us even, it's surviving metal, which seems to be a completely different beast. Completely different beast, in certain people's eyes. So what do you think, man? What's your tale of woe?
I think I've said it before on a couple other shows. I think surviving rock and roll, heavy metal, just quit. Just pack your bags and walk away.
That's right, man.
And go, that was fun.
That was fun. It's probably cheaper to buy the plane flight.
Dude, here's the thing. Like, it is, and it has been, because like you had mentioned, you and I have had a rough summer band-wise. I think the only thing that keeps me going is just, like, I just love to do it. Like, I love the end result, right? Like, I mean, that's the camaraderie sometimes, and the creating, and then the playing live. I think one of the things, I was thinking about this the other day when we talked, when we decided we were doing this topic. I think one of those things is, and I've done this, you really have to lower your expectations now. You can't expect it to be, you can look at a bill, and I've been doing this a lot lately, and I know you and I had a conversation off air of the same thing, where you look at this bill and you go, oh yeah, this show's gonna rock. There was these great bands and good people, whatever, and you're like, this is gonna be a great show, and the show is just meh. I've learned to take a show and just hope for the best. We had Pam on last season talking about think positive and try to get through it. It's true, man. Her expertise is true. You just have to hope for the best and expect the worst, and just learn how to deal with it. You go, well, it wasn't what I thought it was going to be, but take something out of it. Perfect example, over the summer, we had played Virginia, and the Virginia show was a complete nightmare. Nobody was there except for a handful of people. And, and I'm not going to try to hide it. I mean, it is what it is. I'm not really that kind of guy that's going to go, the show was great, and it wasn't. There was really nobody there. But when we got done, the four of us, because it was with my band Execution Order, the four of us were off stage, and we were like, oh my gosh, that was amazing. We had so much fun together, like just being on stage and playing and not goofing off, but just having a few laughs. And we really just kind of made the best of it. We drove 6-7 hours. We drove 6-7 hours home. Like, it was a full day, and we watched some of the other bands that were on the bill, and some of those bands were really great. Made some cool contacts, but at the end of the day, it wasn't what we had hoped it would be. But we just kind of used that to our advantage and went, it wasn't what we hoped it would be, but for what it was, we had a great time, and we turned it around. And, when I woke up the next day, I was kind of like, well, it was what it was, but we had a great time. It kind of brought the band a little closer as people and teammates, whatever, however you want to put it. So that's it, man. Like, that's my biggest thing, is just to, no matter what you think it's going to be, just prepare yourself that it may not be that. It just may not be. You and I were on, we traveled together this summer, and, we had some incidents of a show that we hoped was going to be great, and it was what it was, but we made the best of it. And, we had a few laughs, and, I think that these expectations that we put on ourselves really have to be dialed back a little bit, because the scene has changed, the industry has changed. We, as indie artists, like, I don't know if we're going to ever get back to what it used to be, because there was a time where, we were doing shows at local bars, and the places were packed. Even other bands were coming out. Like, now you do these shows, you don't really know who's coming out. I think it's just a matter of us being, as indie artists, to start kind of lowering our expectations to play, because it's not going to be what it used to be, at least even in our scene. But, like we just talked about, even the bigger band, there are some bigger bands that they're suffering also, like we had just spoke about. We were talking about Flotsam and Jetsam, and I know they're like super underground. I get it. They just canceled their tour because of low ticket sales, but they're just like you and I. Like, I'm sure they got on the phone and was like, oh, we're so excited. We're going to do these dates. Like, we're going to be on the road. It's going to be awesome. And then they got to make that decision, that phone call that goes, man, we can't do this. Like, there's no, like, that's a really big blow to the ego. I mean, let's be honest. Like, to be a band like Flotsam and Jetsam with a name, even as underground as they are, to go, yeah, we can't do it because we have low ticket sales. Like, that's a blow to the ego, bro. Like, that really is. And then, then you got to tell your work, I'm not taking the vacation days off, or maybe you're going to keep the vacation days, your family, whatever. Then you're on social media, and you're looking, you got all these people that are like, oh, you gotta save face, because you have to fully admit that, low ticket sales. I respect them. They were being honest. They didn't hide it. They didn't go, listen, we can't tour, it's not affordable. Like, they were like, straight up, listen, we can't afford it because there's low ticket sales. And I respect that. They were completely being honest, and I'm sure they're sitting in their houses talking to each other, going, man, it's just a huge blow to the ego, and it's super sad. It's super sad. So I think surviving metal or rock and roll, I think the first thing to do is lower the expectations of what you think that show is going to be, or even your record sales or CD sales or digital sales. Just lower your expectations. And if it works out, if it's better than what you'd hope, then that's amazing. But if it works out exactly like you expect, then you won't be heartbroken. And that's the one thing I've learned over the summer, that, just to lower your expectations.
I hate to admit it, but you're dead on. It's unfortunate because you should go in with the highest expectations. Like, this is going to be great. I'm going to make this great. This, everything's going to work out, setting those intentions like we talked about last season. I was recently called the eternal optimist because I do believe that there's always hope, right? Hope is actually the belief that things are going to work out. But more and more, the way things are playing out are actually set up. Like, there's almost things that are being set up to fail because they're not being looked at in a certain light. So, okay, maybe we do lower our expectations a bit to save ourselves. It's part of the survival mechanism. But I think we need to continue to maintain or even raise our standards. Simple as that. Because if we start dropping as artists in terms of, okay, we're dropping our expectations because of Murphy's Law, whatever, but then we start dropping our standards, then what's the point of doing what we're doing?
Yeah.
We're not honing our craft. We're not taking pride in what we do. Just because some other schmo is just, doing whatever they do, and then doesn't mean we have to, right? Like your mother said.
Right.
If everybody's jumping off the bridge, are you going to jump off the bridge too? No. Right? That's the whole idea. I think that we have to, and we were talking about this before we went on air, I think we have to tweak our own personal model and our own personal perspective as to what it is that we're trying to accomplish. Listen, the industry is changing. It's changing rapidly. It's always been changing, right? New artists, they break down certain barriers of artist and listener, or they change a style, or they advance what people's expectations are even further. And now there's a belief that everything that's been done in music has been done in music, and we're just kind of recreating the wheel over and over and over again. That's why a lot of critics and even statistics say that a lot of the songs that we're talking primarily in pop music, but even in metal, right? There's that certain sound in metal, that certain recording technique. We talked about that last year, or last season rather. But the songs are sounding more and more the same. They're using the same beats. They're using the same rhythm patterns. They're using the same type of melodies, chords, synthesizer sounds, whatever. I don't even know. Do they call them synthesizers anymore? I don't even know what they do. I don't know. I mean, I'm dating myself there. That's like, a rotary phone. What? No, I missed that because it would give you, a rotary phone. Like if you were angry at somebody and you wanted to,
you could hang up.
You could hang up, but it would take you like 25 seconds to dial the number, and then you kind of calm down a little bit. You know what I mean? And say, and of course the lower numbers were much faster, But if you had to do a 9, it's like, you know what I mean? But, so some of the things that I've done over the years to survive rock and roll, being an introvert myself, I found that if I kept to myself, I avoided a lot of the drama. Now, people are going to say, well, that's kind of rude and obnoxious and whatever, and maybe that's, that doesn't seem very socially polite or whatever. It's not that I didn't go around saying hello and how are you, I shook hands and stuff like that, but I kept to myself. I didn't go around table to table gossiping, because I see that with a lot of bands. I see that with a lot of artists. I even see it with venues. I see it with bookers, right? Yep. Some of them do it online. Yeah. Which I can't understand that. Bands do it, the bookers do it, and nowadays bookers feel that they have so much power because the venues have separated themselves altogether from, not all of them, but a lot of them, and they put this booker in place, and like they're this gatekeeper, and they think that they're the make and break of bands. What are you doing? You're maybe booking one place, maybe two places. I don't see you driving around in a Rolls Royce, flying jet setting and whatever, and it's like, oh, I brought this band in. Nah, not really. You didn't bring that band in. I don't think that you hunted. That band was looking for places to play, and their
Right.
management said, okay, we're going to drop a pin in this area. Let me call them up or get in touch with somebody. It's not like you're actively going out
Right.
there. Now, there are guys that are doing it. They'll look at the trades. There's another old word. They'll look at the trades and say,
Wow.
okay, this band's coming
Does anybody
through.
even look at the trades anymore?
Yeah, I don't think people look at anything anymore. But, they'll go, okay, well, this band's on tour. Let's see if we can get them if they have an extra show, right? But a lot of times, these acts will put out messages and go, hey, I have an open date I'm trying to fill. And really, all they're doing is filling in as much date at time as they can because they don't want to be idle. They rather just jump from city to city, town to town, club to club, because there's that possibility that they may make a little bit of money. Or they can get some small guarantee from the venue, which is better than not having anything. So sometimes their expectation is like, well, I have these dates, let's see if we can fill them. But how I try to approach things is I stick to myself. I stay to my own little area, and I wait my turn, so to speak.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I come in,
Yeah.
I find out what's expected, what do we need, okay, where can I stage my stuff or where you want me to put, boom. That's where I spend my time, or if I have a merch table, I'll spend my time there or whatever, say my hellos and all that, avoid all the thing, do what I'm supposed to do. When you do what you're supposed to do, you're doing more than surviving.
Yeah.
A lot of times, artists and bands, and you see it. Listen, you see it. We seen it when we were on the road in the summer. Bands think they're entitled to do and say whatever they want, come whenever they want. Check-in is at 5:30. Check-in is at 5:30. If they give you a open area, like 5:30, 6 o'clock, okay, I can see it. Not 6:15, not 6:30, not 7:15, not that you're dragging in equipment 10 minutes before you're supposed to be. And again, some people are like, well, what's the difference? Like someone just told me, I don't see the point in it. You don't see the point in doing anything. Like maybe making life better for yourself. That's just laziness. But there's this entitlement. So I try to avoid all that. Like I said, maybe I've lowered the expectations myself. I think the longer you're in the business, whether the scene has been falling apart or not, I think that because of what transpires, so you get used to something, you create that defensive mechanism of lowering your expectations so you don't feel so bummed out, and it ruins the rest of your night.
Right.
But my standards are still what they should be or above. Yeah. And again, we talked about this early on, like what it is to be professional. And it has nothing to do with what you're paid.
No.
You could be a silent professional through and through, and people want to work with you, or they have no issue working with you. The other thing is you'll have that flip side that people that the jealousy or the hatred, the haters, they dislike that because that's not what they are. And they want to make fun of it or bring it down or, because misery loves company, that kind of thing. I know there's a show that we're going to do this season called Big Fish in a Little Pond. You should know exactly what I'm talking about when I say that, because there's tons of that going on. And I think, I've said this before, some of what makes what we do not so great are other artists, other bands. Listen, I'm not saying I've been a perfect kid my whole life. There's times when I've had my horns twisted or I've had my panties in an uproar. And I mean, it happens. Things happen. I'm human. Sometimes I fall short even with what I want to do. And it bums me out. And I try to make a change. And, I do the best I can. And I take responsibility for everything. I don't point the finger. Like, whatever problems are in my life, guess what, Chris? I caused them. They're me.
Right.
You know what I mean? May his soul rest in peace, Jimmy Buffett. But he said it right. It's my own damn fault. He knew it. He knew it.
He did know it.
He knew it.
He did know it.
And he told the rest of us. So, and I learned that early on. You know what? It's my own fault. That's, whatever the case. Good, bad, and indifferent.
You are listening to The Cosmic Voice with your hosts, Chris Natalini and Mick Michaels.
But like what you were saying, that sometimes you try to find that little nugget in all those situations. Lower the expectations. But that doesn't mean close your eyes, shut everything out.
No.
You need to be aware. Like I recently did a national show, which I was super excited about. And we did it in a format that we don't do quite regularly. We have done it, but we didn't do it this way. So we were kind of excited about it. We kind of rearranged our set and did this whole thing. Well, it was not as well attended as anyone expected or even thought.
Right.
But we made the most of it, played a fantastic set for us. We actually made a couple connections and picked up another show in the process. Again, we didn't go in with those expectations. We,
That's right.
Really, once you got into where you were supposed to, it hit you like a 2-ton heavy thing, and you were like, okay, tonight's not going to be what everybody expected, but let's, do whatever we can. I left there feeling pretty well accomplished in what we set out to do.
Mm-hmm.
Not in terms of, whatever, but I couldn't be held responsible for that. I've pre-sold tons of tickets.
Yeah,
and
it doesn't mean people are
doesn't
coming.
mean people are coming. Sometimes people just buy something, and I know this sounds crazy. People are going, that doesn't. People will sometimes just buy something just to kind of shut you up, or maybe they had some intention to come, but then, choosing, am I going to go out or am I going to stay home? Well, nowadays, everybody picks staying home.
Everyone would stay home. Yeah.
Yeah. I do think that part of the survival process, and somebody would say, well, if you're surviving, you're not really living. Well, we're just using it as a term here, right? It's a good popping word. Is that you still have to maintain standards. And I think if you do that, you'll always find the best in a situation, even when it's not as good as expected, because you're maintaining your standards. As artists, as band members, if we start cutting down what we intend to do or how we intend to do it, then we're no better than the people that we complain about or say that are making the scene worse, because we're not upholding these levels that we keep boasting about, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
I mean, listen, you know it, I know it, I think people that are listening know it. If you're in the industry at any level, right, it doesn't matter. There is a distinction between quality of bands, the way they present themselves, what they're doing in the scene, what they do for their own music, how they promote themselves, how they market themselves, how they perform on stage, how they play, what they release, all that kind of stuff. There's a distinction. There's a distinction between bands that are striving for the next level, whatever that is, and bands that are just playing for the fun of it. And I'm not saying one is better than the other, but there is a distinction. Some bands probably shouldn't even be playing, in my opinion. Not naming names or nothing. It hasn't. Everybody's watched America's Got Talent, right? Is that the word? Or no? Or what's the other one? American Idol, right? We've always
American
watched.
Idol.
Yeah, you watch all those bad auditions. Now, some of them I feel are maybe setups because it's good TV.
Oh, they're total. Yeah, totally.
But then there's people that listen, you've been on bills, you've been on tours, same here. You're watching bands that are on the bill that night, and you're like, who told these guys that they were good? Or the band's great and the singer can't carry a tune. Or the one guitar player's, he's ripping, but he's not in key, he's not in tune, he's way too loud, his timing, or the drummer's off, or, but somebody said, yeah, you guys are good enough.
Yeah.
If everybody's lowering expectations, are you lowering your standards in the process? And I think one way to survive this industry, to keep going, is you got to keep your standards high. And don't get involved in the drama. And, you stick to yourself, stick to your guns. That may seem egotistical, it may seem cocky, it may seem antisocial, it may seem, what are you better? No, that's not the case, man. Because if you don't look at what you do as important, nobody else is going to.
Right. Oh, yeah, 1,000%.
And you're going to have haters. They exist. You just avoid them.
Oh, yeah, well, listen, us as musicians and artists, like, we are collectively, from the top to the bottom, we are collectively a very unique bunch of people. We, unfortunately, a lot of us, jealousy, bitterness, ego, that runs rapid in our industry. It is a shame because, I never tried to be that person, but like you said, like I've also had to keep my standards high, and sometimes that has some ego. I don't want to say ego. That's not the word I'm looking for. I guess your self-confidence can sometimes look at you like ego to other people, and that's just not what it is. If you just keep your standards high, then you understand what you're doing and how you feel about what you're doing, and there's nothing wrong with that. But there is this thing with artists that we all, especially musicians, that we all have run through us. We are a very unique type of people that do this. I just try to stay in my own lane. I don't, like you said, don't get involved in drama. I really try hard not to. I try to stay out of other bands' dramas, and I've run into a few people where, they've left band or been fired and didn't really, say why, and that's cool. They don't want to get involved in that drama, and that's okay. Like that's kind of the way it should be. It should just be stuck, between you and the band. I get it, but even nowadays, like there's all these, guys that, KK Downing's still talking about getting fired from Judas Priest. Like it's like I get it, bro. Ripper Owen, same thing, still talking about Judas Priest. Like, man, when are we going to stop talking about this? Like, calm down, man. It's over. It's been years. That could be looked at too. Like, why? Like, you lowered your standards because you're so focused on what did or didn't happen. At the end of the day, like, I don't really know how many people care. Just write good music, and people will hopefully come. And I mean, that's all you really have to do. And I don't know, man. I think that surviving is just. It's hard. It's always been hard. It has always been hard. And in this day and age of technology, and you and I spoke about it before, where there are people just coming out of the woodwork, trying to do this. And I guess what I'm trying to say is, there's so many people that are just kind of plugging into a keyboard and think they can write a song, and they're putting it out there, and they act like they're the biggest thing going. And you're like, what are we talking about? Like, you're not even close to what this resembles to be a song. It's all electronics. You can't carry a tune because, you have all these effects, or you're using this auto tune. And again, like, to me, you're lowering your standards. And what happens is when you lower your standards like that, then everything just crumbles into the same black hole, because then really nobody takes anything seriously, because everybody thinks that it could be done. And that's also, another thing. Not everybody can do what we do.
With the rise of cover and tribute bands, I mean, listen, cover bands have always been around, right? I mean, the Beatles were a cover band. Van Halen was a cover band. I mean, when Petty was doing his touring in the late 60s, early 70s, they were doing covers. I mean, everybody was doing covers. Elvis did covers. Sinatra did covers. They did other people's, whatever. I'm into the cover arena now. You can't beat them, cover them. I'm not 90% covers. I'm not 95% covers. I'm like 2% covers. And I don't, I play one cover song live, and I've only done it a handful of times. That's it. Because I have a body of work that, I got into doing this so I can do my own music. But what happens is people have taken that as the easy way out, and there's just bad cover bands out there. Listen, I mean, I know that may be a dirty thing to say, a bad thing to say, but listen, there's some bad cover bands out there. I've seen bad cover bands still get a good reaction because they know the song. Maybe they're singing it louder than the band and they can't hear how bad it is or whatever. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Right. But the thing is that's lowered the standard. That guys that don't want to do original music because they feel it's a dead end, they go, I'll just do covers, or I'll join a tribute band, or whatever. I get it, because you're guaranteed getting people in the door. That's what it comes down to. It's not even about pushing the music anymore, creating a scene. It's just about going out. Some of these guys are looking for a payday or playing in front of a crowd, right? And that's it. It has nothing to do with the music. It has all to do with the extras, the benefits, so to speak.
Right.
So,
it's not about the music.
No. So the original scene is dying off. It's getting harder and harder and harder. You got more and more original bands throwing in covers. I mean, look, I'm doing it. I'm not proud of it, but I don't do it all the time. I got one song. One song I throw in, okay? It's the song that I did, back in the 80s. It's the same friggin' song. But at the same time, it's like, what are you going to do? Because that's what people are screaming for. But you got to pepper in what you're doing. When you switch over completely, now that scene's starting to die. Once that dies, the venues don't want anything to do with it. They're lumping you in with covers. One of the nationals that I just supported, 95% of their set was covers. I mean, technically, not their songs. They may have played in bands that played those songs, but they weren't there when they wrote them. Somebody else wrote them, right? But they played those songs. Crowds went nuts. They did a couple of their original songs. I mean, they were good, don't get me wrong, but people weren't as familiar with them.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And it was like, well, you're touring with this. like across the U.S., UK, wherever else you're going in Europe, this is your set. You know, I'm sure they probably pepper in some other stuff every so often.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But
yeah,
95% of it was somebody else's music. And I mean, like, okay, I don't get it. So even that, you're not even pushing your own original stuff, enough of your own original stuff. Why? Because either people don't know it, they're not familiar with it, they don't care about it.
yeah.
And that sucks. And these are the pros. So what do you think the indie and the trench bands have? You're on a bill, you got 4 or 5 bands, they're all playing original songs. Nobody wants to listen to them.
You know, it's pretty bad too, where you see these national bands, and they're either not putting out any more new music because they know no one listens to it or no one wants to hear it, or they actually say on stage, "Listen, we're going to play a new song," and you're like, you could see the change in the crowd, and I'm always like, "Oh my god, it's heartbreaking to me when I see a band, a big band, where they go, all right, we're going to play a new song off the new record," and everybody's like, well, I'm like, oh my god, really? Like, it's heartbreaking to me. It really is.
Here's our first season 6 Kiss reference. I mean, Kiss hasn't put out a new album since when? Like, when did Monster was the last one, right? So that was what, 2012?
Yeah.
They felt it to be pointless. What's the point of putting out new music? Now, there could be a lot of different reasons for that. I mean, it could have been Paul Stanley's voice. It could be maybe in their heart of hearts they felt there was no need for it because they had such a body of work. But I think it really is, as people go to the shows, nobody wants to... How many songs off of Monster do you want to hear? How many songs off of Sonic Boom do you want to hear? I mean, you got, that Delilah song and that other song.
Yeah.
Right? The rest of the album, who cares? Like, you get people go, oh, man, Sonic Boom's a great album. Is it? Name me 4 songs off it, because I can't. I have it. I own Monster, too, but I can't tell you the songs on them. I can't tell you.
Agree.
I agree. I remember the Monster book, the whole book it came in. I remember that more than I remember the Sonic Boom ripoff from the 70s of Rock and Roll Over and, whatever else it tried to look like. But other than that, I can't tell you anything. You can name all the songs from the 70s and even songs from the 80s.
Yeah.
And they're playing the same songs. Same songs over and over again, right? I'll tell you what, in my opinion, Priest, when Firepower came out, Redeemer of Souls, to me, that was an okay album. I don't think it was the greatest. Like, especially going back and listening to it, it's like, it's a little boring and all. But whatever that album did for them, it sparked something. Because when Firepower came out, there's a bunch of songs on there that are amazing. They're playing them live. Yeah, I can remember them. So that's a band that's putting in the time. I can't wait to hear this new one that's coming out. But not everybody's doing that. They're either phoning it in, or like you said, they hung up a long time ago. They're just going to stay to the tried and trues. Yep. And just keep going. Whatever. I don't know, man. I mean, surviving it, man, like you said, it's always been tough. This has always been a tough lifestyle. Like, we talked about it, it's a tough lifestyle on your family, on your friends, on your social calendar. Because a lot of times, if you're doing things, you're missing out on stuff. I've missed birthdays. I've missed weddings. I've missed, unfortunately, funerals. I've been on the road. On my birthday, on my son's birthday. On my wife's birthday. This is over the years. I try not to do that, but sometimes things happen. Like somebody, I said, look, I don't control the venue. I also can't control the flights. I don't control this. Right. I don't control, there's certain things I can control, but other things, you have to put the trust in that, hey, this is all going to work out. The long and the short of it is, like you said, lower your expectations, but then keep your standards continually high, and at least you're hitting your mark. You can't be responsible for other people missing their mark or falling short, right? Because it's going to happen. We're going to do it at times too, right? But we're accountable for ourselves. We're responsible for ourselves. We can't point the finger. Like I said earlier, it's your own damn fault. Whatever happens is your own damn fault. Yep. How do you turn it around? Where do you look for the positive, right? That's part of the surviving mechanisms that we should have as artists. And like you said, what keeps you burning in this? It keeps you burning is that creative process, writing new material. Like, I keep writing new material, and that's what keeps driving me forward. It's not all the other BS that goes with it. The marketing, the talking to this label or this PR guy or this agent, this booking person, this venue, this owner, booking this show, dealing with this other band. I mean, all that's the worst. It really is. It really is. Our job is to write new music and perform new music. We just have to figure out what that model is for us and how does it play into this industry today, tomorrow, next week, whatever, which I think at some level we have a power to determine that, discern what that is. It may not be for everybody. Everybody may not be on board. We may be overlooked. But at the same time, if you're holding your standards high, stuff will happen. Something will happen. If it won't, then, what are you going to do? But the thing is as soon as you conform to what everybody else is doing, you've lowered your standards. This is my opinion. You've lowered your standards, and you're just in the same pool. And what happens is you die out. How many bands come and go? They got all this lip service, all this whatever, and they come and go. Or they got all this stuff, and like we're going to talk about in one of the episodes this season, they're just a big fish in a little pond. Like, what are you doing? You haven't left your 2-foot square radius area.
Yeah.
Every week you're at the same venue, or every other week. It's the same 3 venues over and over and over again.
Yep.
It doesn't work.
Nope.
Why don't you take it out on the road? I mean, really take it out on the road. Put yourself out there. See what happens. Play someplace that you're 3,000 miles away and ain't nobody there. They want to beat you up just because you're American and short. It's a day-to-day basis in terms of that survival. It's a moment-by-moment thing. And sometimes you got to take, when you go into shows that are less than what you were hoping, you sometimes got to take it moment by moment. You really do. Because if not, it ruins your entire night, and it's probably going to ruin your set. And that's not what you're supposed to do. I mean, listen, I'm telling you from firsthand experience. I've been there.
Yeah.
I mean, I put myself into states that were like, sad to say, there's been times when I've been less professional than I should have been. Just because, I'm human and things have gotten to a point where, like, I can't stand this anymore. This is just,
it just gets frustrating.
Yeah, it gets so frustrating because, like, sometimes the dignity's out of it. Like you're being treated like you're it's not important, right? I mean, listen, you're not going to not pay your mechanic for fixing your car. You're not going to not pay your surgeon for fixing your heart. You're not going to not pay your dinner and so on and so forth down the line. But musicians and artists and bands, they're constantly treated like crap, even amongst themselves, amongst other bands. Every band talks about, oh, we're in this, for the long haul, for the community. That's about the biggest BS in the world. Case in point, I just recently watched an interview, and it's probably some time old, but for Duff McKagan from, 3 Chords and the Truth. But I think he's with another band or something. But he was on to That's a joke, people. That's a joke. Like, what's the matter with this guy?
You may never heard of him before.
I mean, you may have never heard of him before. I think Kanye West discovered him. He was on, I can't remember the name of the guy's show, but the guy does sports stuff, but he does entertainers too. He says the one thing that shocked him when he went to L.A., because he was from Seattle, is that it was so cutthroat. Bands didn't want to help each other. He goes, when we were in Seattle, he goes, bands would help each other. They would fill in. You'd borrow equipment. People would share audiences, equipment, members. They would share promotion. They would help each other. He goes, I got to L.A., and he goes, it was cutthroat. He goes, it totally threw me off. That's where we're at. That mentality is everywhere now. It's every band for themselves. And I understand that at the end of the day, you have to concern yourself with what you're doing, but you don't have to step on other people in the process. That's my point. Where does it get you? Again, it gets that big fish in a little pond mentality. And it's terrible. Guys come in, you're given 10 minutes, 15 minutes to set up, you take 25 minutes. And instead of cutting your set down, you play your set time and then some. And then you take forever to get off, and the next bands or the next set of acts are already behind. Nobody says anything because they're in with the click. I'm this great and one. No, dude, you're playing the same venue that I am in the middle of nowhere, right? Yeah. Bands don't want to share equipment anymore. Like, I don't understand what the big deal about that is. Oh, I got this particular sound, I got this particular voltage, and I have this wire. Come on, dude. It's plug and play, man. Plug and play. If you haven't figured out your system now, it's just BS. You know what I mean? It's just BS. What do you think, man? You got anything else you want to add to season 6, episode 1? We're back, baby. We're back. We're back. Saltier than ever.
We really are.
I'm telling you, man, this is going to be a rough season for me because I'm angry. The fire is burning bright.
Season 6 it's gonna be a winner. Nah, man, I'm all good. I'm excited. We're back and I'm loving it. We're gonna have to do a show called Surviving the Podcast World.
Surviving the podcast, because that's a whole nother thing too, man.
That's a whole nother
It's
issue.
a whole nother thing, you know. I mean, it's crazy. This is just nuts. Hey, if you like that episode, check out some of our other episodes at www.thecosmicvoice.com. Step into the Cosmic Verse. You'll never know what you'll find. Thanks so much for listening. This is the Cosmic Voice. Be sure to check us out at thecosmicvoice.com. Like and follow us on Facebook at The Cosmic Voice. You can find The Cosmic Voice everywhere you listen to online podcasts, like Deezer, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, Stitcher, and so many more.
Okay, folks, that will do it for another episode of The Cosmic Voice. Mick and I would like to say thank you very much for tuning in, and we will see you next week.
You're listening to The Cosmic Voice. Music, talk, and nothing but business.